Hello. Hello. Hey, Chris. 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 Hello.
Good morning, everyone. Please rise in body and or spirit, and we will sing together in the gray hymnal, number 42, Morning So Fair to See, number 42 in your gray hymnal. Morning so fair to see, night veiled in mystery, glorious the earth and resplendent skies. Pilgrims we march along, singing our joyous song as through an earthly paradise. Tall are the verdant trees, deep are the flashing seas, glorious each wonder the seasons. This is 42. Brighter in faith's surmise, shining in pilgrim eyes, from which our waking spirits spring. Age after age we rise, 'neath the eternal skies, into the light from the shadowed past. Still shall our pilgrim song, buoyant and brave and strong, resound while life and mountains last. Please be seated.
Good morning. Welcome to First Parish Brewster. We are a Unitarian Universalist welcoming congregation of people of diverse philosophies and beliefs, people of various cultures and races, sexual orientations, gender identities, abilities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your path, may this be a place of rest and restoration on your journey. For those of you who may be first-time visitors this morning, welcome. Welcome on this morning, which we make sacred by our presence together. Also, a big welcome to everyone streaming. Let's give them a wave. So happy you are streaming from your homes. I'm Reverend Jessica Clay, the minister of this congregation. Happy to be welcoming you to the service this morning with Kevin Badanis, our music director, and Twinks Hastings, our Lifespan Religious Education Director, and Pat Stover as our worship associate, and we have the several other people participating in the service that you will see as well. It's a team effort this morning. Our services are recorded and available on our YouTube channel. We do ask that all over the age of 4 mask while in our building, so check. Is your mask on? Is it above your nose? Doesn't do a ton of good if it's below, although it's so much easier to breathe, isn't it? But let's keep it above our noses, and we'll remind each other gently during the service if it happens to slip. We do still have space up in the balcony if you're feeling a little crowded down here, if you want to head up to the balcony. Also, please silence your cell phones. We do ask that all wear their name tags or fill out sticker tags in an effort to be more welcoming. And have you noticed anything? We have new name tags. Hooray! Okay, we can get a little more excited than that. We have new name tags. So if you filled out the form and you are a member, to get a new name tag, your name tag should be on these fancy holders that Raj Smith made in the hallway. So thank Raj, thank your membership team for ordering and doing all the work of collecting all that information for those name tags. So very exciting with our new name tags. And you can just stick it there. It's magnet, so you can stick it there so you don't have to keep track of it in your car or in your home. We also want to do a big welcome to children and families. We welcome the noises, movements, and mirth that little ones bring in our services. Next Sunday, you're invited to join Margaret Rice Moyer as she leads a service focused on Indigenous history. All are welcome next Sunday at 10 a.m. In community news announcements, a million thank yous to all who had a part in my shower yesterday. If I name people individually, I know I will forget people, but I'll name a couple: Twinks and Karina, Susan Smith, Liz Libby, Emmett Libby. Who am I missing? A lot of people. People baked cupcakes. It was a team effort, and many of you came and blessed me and participated in suggesting baby names. There were some very interesting suggestions. My two top favorites are Brie and Roquefort, because I do like cheese and I can eat a lot of cheese in this pregnancy. So, I mean, you know. So thank you to all who came yesterday. It was a really lovely time and helped with setup and cleanup. It was just so lovely. So thank you for that. In additional community news announcements, UU Connections has guests at your table boxes to pass out for the holiday season again this year. Guest at your table is the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee's longest established fundraising and educational program for congregations. Through this annual program, congregations are introduced to grassroots partners, raising support and awareness for pressing human rights issues. These boxes will be passed out after the service at the door to the parish room. And then you'll keep them until after New Year's, when they will be collected by a member of the UU Connections Committee. So keep them at home until you see we're picking them up again. The announcement for that. Also, what are your plans on Saturday, December 11th? The holiday fair. Deb's putting on her reindeer antlers because she's so excited about it. Yes, we're having a holiday fair. It's on the back of your order of service, so you can read more about it, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to have photos with Santa, caroling out front, cookie assortments, baked goods, ornaments, and much more. And it will be started off with a online bid and buy auction, and then we will also have things for sale that day. But we need all of you to help. We're calling on crafters, bakers, food prep, knitters, sewers, and donors to offer your time and talents to help make this a successful community event. Are you going to be available after, Deb? So see Deb after if you are interested. There's also a link in your weekly email, the Angle, if you want to sign up to donate things as well. Saturday, December 11th. Should be a wonderful time. So ends our announcements this morning. Welcome to First Parish. It is so good to be together.
Good morning. Here I am, barefaced and all. I actually put on some lipstick just for this occasion. I am the worship associate this morning, Pat Stover. Last summer, I had a couple of garden parties at my house offered by the auction, and there was a nice mix of older and newer members. It was a great opportunity for us to get to know each other. I found that the first question I asked of everybody was, when did you join and who was the minister at that time? Knowing these two facts about someone helps you to put them in the context of the history of FPBUU. When you join tells us a lot about what you faced as a new member trying to integrate into the congregation at that particular time. As in any congregation, we have had good times and bad times. We've had times of expansion, times of withdrawal, internal struggles and external ones that affect us, like the pandemic. One of the garden party attendees was a fairly new member, and I asked if she had joined before the pandemic shutdown, and she said she had by a few months. So I was happy to hear that because it meant she had just a little bit of time to get to know the way things normally work around here and see people's faces before we closed down and went to virtual services. What I'd like to do with you this morning is visually put all of you in context for each other. I'm going to go through the timeline of all of our settled and interim ministers by date, and when you hear me name the minister who was here when you joined, I will ask you to rise in body or raise your hand. For simplicity's sake, I'm not naming associates, assistant, or community ministers, although we have had quite a few. And for those of you who are newer and not yet familiar with how we do things in a UU church, when a settled minister leaves, there is normally a period of about 2 years when we have an interim minister. In that first year, the congregation goes through a process of discernment about what they want in a new minister, and then a formal search committee is formed and does its work finding us that new minister in the second year of the interim period. I was going to begin this timeline with the Reverend Jim Robinson, our longest serving minister, who came to us in 1982 and left in 2004, an astonishing 22 years, when the church grew to over 500 members and became known as the social justice church on the Cape. But Reverend Jessica reminded me, thank you, that there might be members here today who joined before 1982. Please rise in body or raise your hand if you joined before Jim came to us. Anybody? Don't see. Oh, Susan! Yay! Susan Claus! That's fabulous, Susan. I'm glad we had somebody from before that. Okay, now how many joined during the time when Jim was our minister for those 22 years? Stand or raise your hand. As we would expect, there's a lot of you here who were here when Jim was here. That's the majority of people out there. Thank you. You may sit down. Then we had interim minister Reverend John Nichols for 2 years. Anybody come during that 2-year period? Chuck? Yeah, okay. Janet? 2 of you? Thank you. Then the search brought us the Reverend Eric Wickstrom, 2006 to 2008. Let me tell you a little bit about that period before I ask you to stand. This was the period that my husband, Bob Flanagan, and I joined. We had come from the Unitarian Fellowship of Raleigh, North Carolina, and 2 months after we joined that church, their minister resigned. So we got here, and Eric resigned 2 months after we joined. We began to think we were a jinx. At that time, too, the church was so badly in need of restoration that the whole front was covered with black Tyvek, which was not very attractive. And in his final sermon, Eric ate fire. You know, like in a circus. Evidently, that practice wasn't his skill set. So I was really happy I got to see him do it. How many of you joined during Eric's 2 years with us? Okay, Tom? Okay. Not too many. Thank you. Did you see him eat fire at the end? Yeah, final sermon. Oh, that's right. Not a lot of shoe wearing. He was an interesting guy. So only after 2 years of a settled minister, we were back to another interim, the Reverend Judy Smith Valley. A side note here, at that time we had no program of small group ministry, also known as covenant groups, and Reverend Judy wanted us to have one, so she asked for people to join her in the effort. And Linda Bailey Davies and I answered the call, and we still have a strong small group ministry here today. How many joined at the time of Judy Smith Valley? Whoa, nobody here today. One. Oh, I'm sorry. How did I miss your red kerchief? One joined during that period. In 2010, we called the Reverends Mary Gantz and J.D. Benson our first co-ministry team. Their tenure with us coincided with the renovation of the meeting house when we moved out for a year and a half and met in the Stony Brook Elementary School cafeteria. That was an interesting period. How many joined during their 4 years? One, Chuck? Couple? A couple. Okay, thank you. Mary and J.D. were with us for 4 years, a rather tumultuous and challenging time. And upon their resignations, it was decided that instead of an interim minister, we would have a developmental minister. This is a minister who is chosen to play a particular role in a congregation with special needs. In our case, we needed some deep reflection and healing concerning what we really wanted in a minister before we could engage in another search process. So Reverend Don came to us in 2014 and 15, who joined during that period. Again, a few of you. Oh, a couple more. Thank you. Then, since there had been a lot of healing and reflection needed, when Don left, we felt that we needed yet another year of developmental ministry while we carried out the ministerial search process. And Pastor Tom came to us in 2016, who joined during his year with us. Another few more. Thank you. I think it was particularly challenging for new members joining us in this developmental ministry period. Having no knowledge of what went before, I could see new members struggling to understand what it was that a lot of we longer-term members were going through. I must say to you, before I get to the last minister in the line, that after having had such a long-serving and beloved minister as the Reverend Jim Robinson, it's not unusual at all for a congregation to go through a period of difficulty, sometimes a very long and sustained period, of trying to find just the right settled minister for the congregation at that point in time. But I do have a feeling of optimism. The Reverend Jessica Clay came to us in 2017 and happily is still with us in 2021. Serving us during this very challenging time of the pandemic. So who has joined in Jessica's years? Where are our newest members? Woo, look at all of them, yay! Tell you, I think it's a good sign that many people joined during Jessica's tenure, almost as during Jim's tenure, so very good sign. So you can see that we've all had different experiences with membership in this church, depending very much on when we joined. So the next time you have a chance to engage in conversation with another member you don't know very well, try asking the question, when did you join? And be prepared for a very interesting conversation. We light this chalice this morning in honor of all the reasons we joined First Parish and all the reasons why this has become our beloved religious community.
Please rise in body and or spirit, and we will sing, We Give Thanks. We won't need our hymnals because this is a wonderful hymn done as a call-in response. So I'll offer you the text, and you respond, please. Oh, we give thanks, for this precious day, for all gathered here, and those far away, for this time we share, with love and care. Oh, we give thanks, for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this place we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Please be seated.
I'm going to invite all of our children and youth to come on forward. Or down from the balcony if you're up there. You can take a seat right on the stairs. So I have a story for us all this morning, and it starts long ago, or maybe last week, or sometime whenever. There was a place. It was not a city, but it wasn't a large town either, but it wasn't a small town. So I guess it was like average, you might say, except for one thing. There was a storyteller in that town, and a storyteller with a capital S. The storyteller arrived one day without advance notice, or as some people would put it, without warning. There had been no invitation, no request. The storyteller just showed up, rented a small house at the edge of town that had been empty for 2 years, and put up a sign inviting people to come and listen to stories. Mind you, that was not so easy for the people in town. They were nervous about it. They wanted to know if the storyteller was qualified. They wanted to know if the storyteller was credentialed. They wanted to know if the storyteller was male or female. The children, of course, they didn't care. They were just really thirsty for stories. And they got them. On any Sunday morning, you could be sure that all of the children in town were at the storyteller's house. And so, the storytelling began. Long ago, there would be forests and stories with huge bugs and strange creatures, and all the children and youth were listening to the stories, and the children loved them, and they said to the storyteller, "Can we take parts of the story home?" And the storyteller said, "Yes, of course." And so she gave them some parts of the story. She gave one child a dragon, and she gave one child a big flower that was the size of them. And she gave another child a huge creepy crawly caterpillar bug. And she gave someone else a star. And she gave someone else a whole planet to bring home. And there was only one problem. There's only one problem. When the children got home, their caregivers were like, "You can't bring that star in here. That's gonna burn out our house. You can't bring that planet in here. It's gonna knock our roof off. Why are you bringing that huge caterpillar in here? It's gonna eat all of our green vegetables. You can't bring that dragon in here. It's gonna burn down the kitchen." And the children were so upset, and they said to the storyteller, "You gotta help us. You gotta help us, storyteller. Our caregivers are not happy with this arrangement. And the storyteller said, well, I don't know what I can do. I don't think they'll listen to me. And the children were so disappointed. Can you do your best disappointed faces? Oh, good. And so the storyteller walked away. Later that week, some strange things started happening in town. Things started showing up in unexpected places. A big tree right in the middle of the street, then a tiger in front of someone's garage, and a huge blue mountain at the front of a house. Nobody knew what was going on, but they had an idea who was responsible. It's that storyteller, said the mayor of the town. And he said, this is not happening on my watch, the election is next week. He marched over there in front of all the townspeople, and he said, I'm going to personally take care of this. Do not worry. So he marched over there and knocked on the storyteller's door. And the storyteller said, yes? And the mayor said, this has got to stop, storyteller. All these things that keep showing up around the town. And the storyteller said, you don't like them? Are you kidding me? Shouted the mayor. I can't get into my house. There's a mountain in front of it. But it's a story mountain, said the voice. All you have to do is enter the story. It's so simple. Just enter the story. The mayor was so exasperated that he thought he had better leave before he said something that could be overheard by someone whose vote he wanted. What are we going to do, he thought to himself as he walked home. By the time the mayor got home, the mountain had vanished from in front of his house, but he had no sense that it wouldn't reappear. And so he had some more thoughts. Maybe I should talk to an expert about this. He liked experts. You could pay them, and they would help you, and if they didn't help you, you could complain, and everyone would support you in your complaint. And beside, regular people, as he thought of them, didn't have that special know-how he needed in a crisis. But maybe he could first go to someone whose expertise he wouldn't have to pay extra for. So he did. And he went to the minister of his church. You're going to have to now pretend to be the minister of the church. I'm in a real jam, minister, he said. Why don't you tell me about it, the minister said. And so the mayor did. He told the whole story, and towards the end he said, it's not easy dealing with all these stories. After all, how do we know we will like how the story ends? And the minister said, with all the gentleness in the world, well, that's really in our hands. All of us who enter the story decide how it will turn out. We take what is given us and decide if it will be beautiful or not. We decide if we are willing to learn something new. We decide whether we will allow ourselves to be amazed and delighted by the story, or whether we will be gloomy and close to the magic of it. Each of us creates stories and listens to stories. Each of us has creative genius, and a good story calls out to us to use that creative genius for the benefit of us all. It's really not so hard. And the mayor thought about it some more and decided that maybe the minister was right and that he ought to go back to the storyteller and find out how to get into the story after all. That was great acting, Reverend Jessica, thank you. We're going to leave a different way this time. We're going to go out the door, not the back door. So let's sing our children out. And you can bring these things with you.
Children, may you go now in peace. Children, may you go now in joy. Love surrounds you on your way. Children, may you go now in peace.
Will you join me in the spirit of prayer and meditation? Our prayer this morning is a combined prayer from one of the prayers is a prayer after the acquittal of the murderer Kyle Rittenhouse by Peggy Clark, and the other prayer is in the name of all that is complicated by Laurel Littlejohn Gray. So I invite you to settle into your seat, cast your eyes down or close them. If you have something in your hands, set it down if you can, allow them to relax. Just breathe. Take a moment for quiet. After our prayer this morning, we will enter a time of silence followed by singing Spirit of Life. In the name of all that is complicated, may we enter this week gently. May we welcome all the guests that come to our table. The ambiguity of why bother this year, the joy of celebration and fresh-baked pie, the grief of the empty seat that can never be filled, the grief of verdicts that uphold white supremacy. May we find our power in our grieving, our conviction in our sorrow, our strength in our anguish. May we welcome the warmth of candles lit in the dark, the malaise of all that you've been told about how to feed your body, the hope of reconnection, of feeling filled for the first time in a long time, the fear of, is this safe enough? This week with the verdict, we are not defeated, even as our hearts are broken yet again. We are instead reminded that the road to justice is rocky and unbalanced, but we are traveling it together. May our prayer find all the families who mourn, and may our solidarity become a blanket of compassion. In hope that the new world is only just beyond our sight. This week, may we welcome the loving bustle of ancestry and recipe and tradition, the horror of history and all the ways it lives on. May we welcome all these guests at our table and all others who come needing a place to call home. There is good news. There is space here, plenty of grace to share in the name of all that is complicated. Amen.
Good morning. My name is Carol Yerby, and my first Parish Brewster story began 2 years ago when I attended a newcomer's orientation with Reverend Jessica. She asked us to pair up and discuss our answers to the question, what are you doing to make your life meaningful? My husband Chris and I had just retired and moved to Cape Cod. We joined First Parish Brewster to find our people and to get involved in social justice work. We joined PFLAG, Habitat for Humanity, Building a Bigger Table, You the Vote. I also began tutoring through the Cape Cod Literacy Council. 8 months later, COVID-19 forced us all to quarantine. Thankfully, our amazing staff threw us a lifeline without skipping a beat, and we all learned how to attend worship, coffee hour, and team meetings from home. The following year, I joined my first covenant group, the 8th Principal Task Force, and the Board of Trustees. At our year-end celebrations, we met in person for the first time, and it was like meeting family. This year, I continue to be in a covenant group. I am also a high school youth group leader, a member of the Faith Family Kitchen team, and the president-elect on the Board of Trustees. Getting involved in the life of this church has made me feel like I belong here. I've made new friends, and yes, it has made my life more meaningful. Thank you.
Each week we have the practice of splitting our offertory plate. Half of the money that is collected goes to the work of First Parish Brewster, and the other half goes to a worthy organization nominated by one of you. This week, the split plate is going to Thrive Cape and Islands Gay Straight Youth Alliance. And the Thrive Cape and Islands Gay Straight Youth Alliance House is a place where young people can enjoy meetings, drop-in times, and special events where there is camaraderie and support in a peer-led, adult-advised environment, free from judgment based on inherent differences. This house program is youth-driven, peer-led, and adult-advised, offering an array of supportive services to people 22 and under who adhere to the organization's basic principles of respecting differences. This is a safe haven for people here who need it. So today we ask you to give generously if you are able. There's a couple of ways you can give. You can text to give, the number's in your order of service. If you're streaming from home, you can give on our website. You can also place a check or money, I almost said money order. Who's carrying a money order this morning? You can also place a check or money in the offertory basket as well, or you can mail them to the office. However you choose to give, we thank you for your generosity this morning. And we're going to do something special that I haven't warned the ushers or Kevin about. Is I would like the ushers to bring the offertory down to the front when we're done with it, and we will sing from You I Receive, hymn number 402, to bless these offerings as well at the end. The offertory will now be gratefully received.
to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
After I agreed to Jessica's request that I talk about my experience here at First Parish, I thought, my word, where do I begin? Fortunately, I'm an inveterate saver. So I went first to my cupboard of all things for FPB, and there I found not only all the minutes of the years I spent on the board, but many years before, because I was given the job of finding all the past policies so that we wouldn't repeat ones that had already been written and find ourselves not following the ones that had been written, or even to delete those that no longer served our purpose. I found some interesting facts that I thought were, and some fun facts that I thought you might be interested in. At a meeting in November of 1995, at that time we had a wonderful, as we do now, a wonderful large choir. I'll read what I have, what we said at that time. A lengthy consideration ensued on a policy on the use of applause during service after a musical performance. Then, it was moved and passed that the congregation be given an opportunity to express their thanks at the end of the service and be asked not to clap otherwise. Thus you see the hand waving today. In January of 1998, it was moved and passed to build a permanent platform for the First Parish dancers, which would be accessible to all. Fortunately, at that time we had a member who was in a wheelchair, and he was very instrumental in guiding us in the steps to take to make the church handicap accessible in all ways. Thus you see the platform here, and over here the lift. I've never seen that used, by the way. Then as now, we were always looking for ways to enhance our finances. Jim Robinson, our minister at the time, talked to a cellular company in May of 1998 who were interested in renting our steeple at $12,000 a year for 5 years. An engineering team examined the steeple and reported that they would install 4 antennae and some wires on the outside that wouldn't show, and then a box at the bottom that would be covered up with shrubbery. I can't remember if we did that. Susan, we didn't do it. So, but we went through the process. Perhaps you'll recall, and some of you might know, that we were desperate for space at that time. So we rented a building down the street here, 1573 6A, and we called it the Annex. And everything that we couldn't fit in here took place in the Annex. And then in January of 1999, we signed a purchase and sales agreement to buy the Winslow House, which gave us a chance to spread out a little and prepare for the big celebration of our tricentennial in September and October of 2000.
Thank you, dancers. This past week, I've had 2 visits with First Parish Brewster congregants outside of meeting with people on campus. One was in a member's home, the other was in the memory care facility where this member is now living. At each of these visits, these members told me stories of their lives. Often prompted by items in their rooms, they described places and time periods. And I got a little glimpse of what makes them, them. I love going to visit with members in the spaces that they live because it gives me a picture of their lives. It lets me see a little bit of their own sanctuary that they've created. But I love seeing you all here, or in my office, or on Zoom, but that's just one picture. And what I really enjoy about going to your homes is I develop a fuller picture of who you are. It's such a privilege to be trusted with your stories. And this is what we do when we enter into relationships with each other. We trust each other with our stories to hold them, and we co-create stories in these friendships and relationships together. Yesterday afternoon, I officiated a wedding, and not for members, and I first met this couple the night before my ordination and installation when I was having dinner with friends and family and colleagues at the Captain Linnell house. And this couple was eating dinner there, and they kept hearing all these people coming in saying, "We're here for Jessica." And they were like, "Who is Jessica?" Celebrity on Cape Cod. So they came over and introduced themselves to me. So when they decided to get married a couple of years later, they called me up. We had only entered each other's stories briefly for a moment back in 2018, and now here we were several years later, becoming a deeper part of each other's stories. And this wedding was a 3rd time rescheduled pandemic wedding. So we were really in each other's stories at this point. And when we come to this community, we enter each other's stories, and we carry these stories. We carry the history of this community in our bodies, in our bones. Those who come from other congregations before carry those stories as well. In Maria Popova's article on Hannah Arendt's views of how we invent ourselves and reinvent the world, she quotes Hannah Arendt as saying, "The smallest act in the most limited circumstances bears the seed of boundlessness, because one deed, and sometimes one word, suffices to change every consolation." Therefore, as we have explored this month's theme of holding history, and some of you remember last week I talked about how we're creating history here together, I invite you to remember that moving into each other's stories, becoming a part of each other's stories, this is, as Hannah Arendt says, it bears the seed of boundlessness. There is a boundlessness in the possibilities of what we can do here together. And the stories that you hold of this congregation speak to that. So, who's ready to get uncomfortable? Oh yeah, it's time. So I want to take a moment and invite you to share a story with each other. This is going to be short. I know we don't do this often, but we used to do it pre-pandemic. And it's sometimes uncomfortable, but sometimes it's good to lean into that discomfort a little bit. So I want you to find someone that you didn't come with, and you're each going to have 2 minutes each. So this is short. We don't need all the details. You don't need to describe what the room looked like or the smell. That's for your memoir. This is short, Cliff Notes version. 2 minutes each to share a story that you have of this community. Now, I know we have a lot of visitors today. So if you're visiting today, share the story of what made you come through our doors. So make sure you introduce yourself, share your pronouns, and then you have 2 minutes to share your story, and I will ring the bell when it's time to switch people. Please do not shake hands. We're still in COVID times. Or touch each other, and you're going to have to speak up because it's hard to hear each other in our masks. Sometimes when we speak in masks, we want to lower them to speak. Let's not do that today. Let's keep them up for me. So I'm hopeful we can make it work. Can we make it work? Yes. All right. So go ahead and find someone to share your story with. Don't be afraid to get up and move, and I'll tell you when we're starting. Notice if someone's sitting alone. Okay, she's right there. If you haven't switched people, switch people so that the other person has time to speak. I'm not doing it, you're doing it. You do both. You do one that way and then one that way. How about you do that one? No. You don't start shooting to the end. No, because I have words. I'll tell you, I say, today I'm happy to share with you the stories that we talked to pay off the endowment loan. We have about 1 more minute. Come on back to your seats. Thank your conversation partner or partners. You did it. Give yourselves a pat on the back. We do have a time for gathering masked in the parish room after the service, so you may want to continue your stories there. Thank you for sharing your stories with each other. To decide whether life is worth living is to answer the fundamental question of philosophy. Albert Camus wrote in his essay, The Myth of Sisyphus. Everything else is child's play. We must first of all answer the question. We come to this congregation to find community, to find like-minded souls, to participate in building the world we dream about, and to wrestle with the big questions. Big questions like deciding whether life is worth living, what we want our lives to look like with however many years we have left, and who we choose as our people. Last week, who remembers what we said to each other in the benediction? You are my people, yes. We said that to each other. And I hope through these relationships found here, you're reminded of what makes life worth living. The beautiful moments and the hard ones. The working through conflict together, the saying and setting of boundaries, the building of covenant, and the wrestling with what to do when that covenant is broken. We all do that together here in this space, and we build trust together. We show up for each other in this congregation to ensure that it continues long after we are gone. We make space to hear each other's stories and to recognize that there isn't one single story of this congregation. And when we are all but memories for other people, may our memories be spoken of within these walls as well. Therefore, we're creating history together. We're part of a living history in which we bring all of our stories to this place, and we create stories together, and we're building a future for those who will come after us. Many of you donated to our endowment fund payoff campaign that was launched in September to help build that future for those who will come after us. Whether you gave $5 or $15,000, you became a part of history of repaying this debt for those who will be here long after we are gone. And we heard from Sylvia about when that debt was originally taken on back in 1999. And for those who are here now, you repaid it too for those who are here now, for the programs we want to create and for the projects that we want to do as a church community. And so today I'm happy to share with you that 20 years after we took a loan from ourselves, 20 plus years, you have helped to pay off our endowment loan. You're clapping for yourselves. That is a cause worthy of breaking that policy about clapping, if I say so myself. So this is history being made right here. This is something to celebrate. And today, you are the champions. We are the champions together. We get to rejoice in the gladness of knowing that we did this together. Today we have an invitation to celebrate our joys. As much as we grieve the injustices of the world, we come together to celebrate the things that we are able to do together that we wouldn't be able to do if we were separate. I hope you take this and the other stories that you've heard with you today and hold them like treasures in your heart and continue sharing yours. Remember that we are interconnected and responsible for each other. And we give thanks for all who have been a part of forming our history and for all who are helping us to write a new one with each day. Amen. Our closing song today is We Are the Champions. And I want to give you a fun fact about it before you sing along with it, for those who know it. This is from, what has replaced the Encyclopedia Britannica? Wikipedia. In 2011, a team of scientific researchers concluded that We Are the Champions was the catchiest song in the history of pop music, despite its not reaching #1 in the charts of any major market. Dr. Daniel Mullenifson said of the study, every musical hit is reliant on math, science, engineering, and technology, from the physics and frequencies of sound. I want you to turn to someone and say, "You are my people." May you remember that as you go out into your week.